It's supposed to get everybody.
Oh.
I was gonna try to move this out of the way. Now that
It's not needed?
let's get that down out of the way.
I'm gonna pull it up and see if I can pull it up on Facebook.
See if it's working.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we hit go live. So we should be. If I back.
Right, there it is.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. If we're just fumbling around here, trying to get out of my phone. I was originally going to set it up on the phone. Alrighty then. I think I'll try to. Well,
So it's not on your phone?
well, I'm on a different thing on my phone. I don't know how to get to the videos. Let's see. Alright. Is it
Shoot you, and it's got that top one, I think, because it's trying to catch me
okay?
on the side of, so when I leave, I'll probably go to just 2.
Okay. So I guess
Okay.
well we're a little late, but that's okay. People can you see if you can hear us
Yeah, I have my volume turned really low now.
before we just start talking? Okay. All right, we're gonna assume everything's working then, since her phone is working. Okay.
I'm ready to wait now.
Thank you. We are trying to get my phone out of my pocket. I got another phone. Okay, so this is gonna be a little bit different. We have this thing called a meeting owl, and I can't tell. I'm assuming it's got me pretty good or whatever, but we had another person that was coming to the live program, and since we can't do this outside because the weather is being very unpredictable and not it's not good weather to be outside planting. So if you had planned on planting anything today, you probably need to cover it up because this cold weather we're getting tonight is probably going to probably hurt or maybe damage or kill your plants that you've recently planted. So we did that a few hours ago. Actually went outside and covered all of our stuff. You can buy stuff to cover it with, and I have found out today we were going to buy more stuff to cover it with because we didn't have enough. And Walmart's out, Lowe's is out, Home Depot is out, all the local ones anyway around here. We could have drove to North Little Rock. It said that they had some at the Lowe's there, but we didn't want to do that, so we used a tablecloth to finish covering. So you can always make do with whatever you have at home. Even we have fabric here at the library, so we even thought, oh, if we had some fabric we didn't care about getting dirty, we could have done that. But we had a tablecloth, so we made do with that. The only thing about the tablecloth is plastic, so it tears holes in it, and it's kind of hard to reuse again.
Yeah. Get the dollar ones at Dollar Tree.
Yeah. Oh, with my computer keeps. Okay. Hey, I can see myself now. Yay! I'm gonna make it where I can see myself a little bit better. It keeps putting pop-ups on my screen too. Well, there we go. All right. There we go. So this is I didn't even start it off the same way as I normally do. This is a Crafting with Opal program we do on every other Thursday at 4. Today is how to plant and grow bulbs. And if you signed up for supplies, you would have gotten some gladiola bulbs. I didn't seal the bags because it's really not a good idea to seal up your bulbs. And all we had was plastic bags. They come in, I threw them away, but they come in these plastic bags that have holes in it to help them breathe so they don't get too, I guess to keep them from drying up or getting moldy or something. I know that this one already has a little bit of it poking out of the top of it. Yeah, so there's a few of them that might be started that way. Actually, I think I got more started than that had been previously when they were in my bag.
They've been in a warm building.
Oh yeah, maybe so, yeah. And I gave you several bulbs because some of them looked a little dried up and maybe won't make it. Like this one right here looks pretty sad. but I do see a root coming out of the bottom, so it might make it. So you might try planting them anyway, just to see if they, actually, if I pull away a little bit on this one, even though it looks kind of dried up, I see a top to it
Okay.
poking out. So,
Me too, for sure.
we purchased these at Walmart because they had a nice package of them, 24 bulbs actually, for $6.97. So I thought that was a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
It was the only bulbs that they were selling that was that inexpensive. I guess this plant is not as pricey as the lilies and other ones, because you could only get maybe four to five maybe lilies for about the same price or more, depending on what kind you bought. But if you're interested in any of those, I mean, they're all gonna be planted and treated similar. The depth of how you plant them is gonna be different, of course. I went ahead, since I had a patron that was gonna come to the live program, but she wasn't feeling well and decided that she wasn't gonna come. She doesn't have the internet, because I was gonna refer her to, I said, well, come get your bulbs anyway, and you can watch her video. And she said, well, I don't have the internet, so I can't do that. So I made a really quick directions to put in the little grab and go package that I had for everybody. And when I was making it, I realized that if you've never planted a bulb before, you're not gonna know what's the top and the bottom of the bulb.
Right.
The only reason I figured it out the very first time I ever planted, I got some really pretty stargazing lilies from Sam's Club one year.
Yes.
And they all came up, they did great. But they already had parts popping out of the top of them, and so that made me go, oh, that's the top, you know. And so I stumbled on to how to correctly do it just from that. And I think I had a gardening book too that I had bought that told you about different plants and how deep to plant the
Yes.
different plants depending on what you have. Because you've got dahlias, and they even have elephant ears listed. I even printed,
Yes.
I got this handout that I gave to just the people that was gonna come here in person on how to plant bulbs. I got it from Lowe's website. They had a very detailed thing that I thought was pretty cool. It had a lot of information on it. And those are like the tender, so they consider these tender bulbs. So
Even an elephant ear.
yeah, and which surprises me. I mean, those, I've heard those are hard to kill. So, and the tender ones supposedly, if you got really cold weather and stuff, that you have to dig them up, you know, during the winter time to keep them from dying. But being in Arkansas, we have such strange weather, and I guess maybe the ground never gets really cold and hard.
Usually.
And maybe, I'm not sure how deep you plant elephant ears. Maybe they're planted deep enough that our ground doesn't get cold enough to kill them. And I think the gladiolas are probably similar too. So you may lose it if we get a really bad one, but they're kind of the most inexpensive ones, so replacing them wouldn't be as big of a deal. They don't have, the thing that I was surprised about was the tulips being considered hardy bulbs. And I thought tulips, they replanted those every year and dug those up every year. So that to me makes it sound more like a tender bulb.
Right.
So I was really surprised on their website that they had them listed as hardy bulbs. So I don't know if that's correct or not. Makes me kind of wonder. My sister lives in Kansas, and they have a park that they plant tulips.
Yes.
And fill the entire park with tulips and have a tulip festival every year.
Yes.
And my sister said that what they do with theirs is they dig up the old ones and plant new ones every year, and they give away the old ones.
Oh.
So I thought that was interesting that they just
Yeah.
didn't discard them. They just planted new ones and gave away the other ones. So I'm curious to how their experiences are with how the people that take the old ones, if they how well they do for them, you know, when they plant them and stuff. I don't know a whole lot about tulips, so I just always figured, just from hearing people saying, well, you gotta replant them every year, or you gotta dig them up and plant them again every year. So someone gave me some tulips this year in a pot, and they were really pretty. And so I was like, I don't know, when they die back, what should I do? I guess I need to go online and look it up and see, if I can just keep them in a cold,
Inside.
you know, and maybe I can plant them in the ground, you know, early spring, or is it in the fall? I know it's during the
Tulips
winter.
in the fall, I think,
In the-
but they like to have a cold spell.
Cold spell. And another
But
thing.
they
when-
like mulch on top too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, that was some of the things I was reading. Well, I guess I should basically go over that part, and then I'll go over all the interesting stuff they had on their website. But basically, these are going to, when you buy bulbs too, you're gonna have generally, they're gonna have a card on it or a packaging that's gonna actually tell you when they bloom, how deep to plant them, how far apart to space them, how tall they get, and their approximate size. And with this one, it says it blooms in the midsummer, and to plant it like 4 to 6 inches deep. And I have that on this little handout that I gave to everyone that got supplies. And to space them 4 to 6 inches apart, and they get about 30 to 48 inches tall. So I'm trying to think how. A yardstick was like 30 something. So they're gonna, about a yardstick or taller, I guess, is about how tall they're gonna. So that'll help you kind of figure out where you wanna plant them and so forth.
It'd probably be good if they were sort of out of the wind if you've got a corner of your house.
Oh,
It's gonna
yeah,
get so
'cause they get tall.
And when they bloom, they're so top heavy and beautiful. The wind
Okay.
can really, unless you stake them or put them in an area
Where they won't get blown away. Yeah, because our weather's so unpredictable around here and stuff. You'd hate for a storm to come through and just
Yes.
tear them up. That would be horrible. Let's see. And then I also included some blood meal plant food with it, which is helpful. I don't know, honestly, we have shake and feed that we bought last year for a lot of the stuff around here. Shake and feed would probably work just as well. I just remembered when I planted my stargazing lilies that it had recommended bone meal. And then when I saw this blood meal, I'm like, I need to research and see what's the difference between the two, because with the bone meal, it recommended sprinkling a little bit of it into the dirt before you put the
Yes.
actual bulb in the ground. The blood meal recommends putting it on top of the dirt after you've planted it. But they basically do the same thing. It's nutrients for the bulb and stuff. And this one actually can also be used after you've planted it. It said with flowers and vegetables, for new flowers and vegetables, mix the soil around the plant base at the time of planting. So after you get it planted, then mix it in. It doesn't say how much, which really threw me. I'm like, why is that not on there? Because it says after they're established, to apply 1 cup per foot of planting height, and repeat every 30 days with a 1/2 cup per foot of planting height. So that's quite a bit. So I'm thinking if it's a new bulb and you're putting it right above it, maybe a tablespoon. I would be a little hesitant to burn it by putting too
Yes.
much down. So I found just a little plastic cup thing. It looks about like a tablespoon. So I was going to use it today when we planted, but the weather didn't cooperate. And just mix it in really well. And wear gloves.
Right.
And there's all kinds of garden gloves. You can get the kind with we've got some with the plastic on it.
Yes.
Those are really good when you're gonna be dealing with wet stuff
Yes.
too. And then you got your just plain old fabric ones too. They work well. And for something like that, I think you could use either one. I'd wash my hands afterwards too, even though wearing
And you can
gloves.
always wear just the regular old plastic ones
Plastic.
underneath your
Cloth ones, that's
Just
true.
household, like we've gotten supplies of lately, to
Mhm.
put underneath your rubber,
Perfect.
your cloth ones.
And if you're planting it in an area that maybe you've never planted before, there's no garden soil, you'll definitely need to fix that area up. I have really bad clay in Cabot. So with that one, you really do have to break it up really good and get you a good, if you're gonna do a big area, I would get at least 1 large bag of gardening soil. If you're gonna do a raised planter, then getting some of the potting soil would probably work, because you know, work better for something like that. We've got a lot of the potting soil up here because we weren't able to get a hold of the gardening soil. And so some of our little areas we have out here, we've been using it a little bit because the area was already turned up and doing good. And so you can mix them together a little bit too if you need to. But yeah, you'll want to get it worked out really good before, and it needs to be, I remember in the paperwork here, it said, let it be an area that drains well too.
Yes.
You don't want it to, like with my area, if you've got clay, dig out a bunch of that clay. You can mix it in with the clay, but you need to break up that clay really, really good where it's not dense. Yeah. And my what was it, stargazing lilies, they did fantastic in the area that I planted them. And I had a bunch of clay in that area, but I mixed it in really, really good. And I forget how deep you have to do them, but it was, I was getting frustrated because I think it was like 6 inches deep
Probably.
that I had to, and so my husband ended up pulling them all up at one point. He got a little, and they were beautiful. They got like,
Yes. And don't they smell really good?
yes, they smell really wonderful. And I think mine got 4 feet tall. They got huge, but they were near the water spigot on the wall.
Okay.
And if you get that pollen from those on your shirt, it won't come out.
Right.
So he got some shirts stained from it and got
Yes.
really frustrated with me and pulled up my plants. But he only pulled up a few of them at first, and then later on he just wanted to get rid of them altogether. I'm like, well, okay. And we put a rose bush, a rose of Sharon actually, not rose of Sharon, knockout rose bush there instead. And those, that has done really well. He still likes to chop that pretty good to keep from getting stuck, but that one's done better and has
So you
survived.
went from pollen to thorns.
Right,
Okay.
right, yeah.
Maybe
But-
rosemary next time.
yeah, yeah, but that one does really well, and so it looks pretty. So, and he doesn't mess with it as much. So, anyhow, so if you've never ever planted a bulb, kind of think of it like, have you ever bought a anything from the grocery store, like say an onion or
Yes.
garlic, or they're shaped similar. They're gonna have, like the picture I put on here, you're gonna have a pointed top and then a flat bottom to it. So that's how you figure out the bottom, flat bottom is gonna be your root area. So keep that in mind when you're planting them, especially if they're kind of misshapen and look kind of funny like some of these do. You're going to have a definite flat bottom. And if you look at the flat bottom, you'll go, oh, that kind of reminds me of an onion in the grocery store, because that's the way they cut them also. And then you're going to have some little point on the top. So definitely plant them like that, because you want your roots to go down and you want the point to go up, because this is the actual plant that's going to come out of the ground. So if you plant it sideways or upside down, you're never going to see it. It's going to grow probably, but it's not going to come out of the ground. So that's your basic directions for doing that. And with this bone meal, yeah, just once you get this planted, and that's going to be frustrating trying to dig that hole, especially if you try to get a good 6 inches. Because if you don't bury them far enough, they're going to topple over and get too heavy and stuff. And like you said, these are top heavy, so I would probably do the 6 inches instead of the 4, just to be on the safe side. And we don't know what colors you're going to get. If you notice these bulbs, like this yellow color and this bulb's kind of purple.
Oh,
So
yes.
I'm wondering if that's going to dictate the actual blooms, what they're going to be. That's going to be fun, I think.
Yeah.
Because with this one, it looks like, I don't know if you can, but there's some light pinks, some dark pinks, some purples. So I'm not, and they come in other colors. I know. They don't they come in like white and other
Yes.
colors too.
Yes.
So I
Even
don't
striped.
really know what you're gonna get, even though this is what it looks like on the picture. That does not always tell you, unless you're getting something like the stargazing lilies. They only come in those colors. You're gonna get with stargazing lilies, it's gonna be a white bloom with dark pink like stripes down the petals. And that's just the way. And there's going to be male and female ones too. Because I noticed with my stargazing lilies, the pollen part of it, they're not exactly the same. I think that had something to do with males and females possibly.
Okay.
Because I thought that was a little weird and I didn't understand why they looked different.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh. But later on I learned that some plants had male and female, so I was like, huh, okay. I don't know how that all works, but if I learn more about gardening, I might find out. You can always, Google a bunch of this stuff too. And we're gonna plant ours later, whenever it gets a little bit warmer. And if for some reason we do get some more of this really, really, really cold weather, just mulch it really good. I think they said like a couple of inches of mulch is good, and that not only helps with not getting weeds coming up in it, but it helps protect your plants and stuff too.
It's moisture.
Yeah, and unfortunately a lot of mulch, unless you get, we bought lava rocks one year. Those work really well, but if you ever want to dig up an area that you've got lava rocks, they settle into the dirt, and it is extremely difficult getting them all back out again.
Yes, yes,
So,
I've done that.
unless you never ever plan on digging that area up again, I would not recommend lava rocks.
Yep.
The other mulch does get washed away, so you have to buy more and put it down again over and over again. So that's something you have to replenish and replace a lot.
You know what, layers of newspaper and mulch and newspaper and
okay.
mulch, if you have newspaper to recycle, it's great to keep the weeds down and keep the moisture, and it will
Do
dissolve.
you shred up your
You
newspapers?
can, but I don't.
Oh,
I just
okay.
put layers and I'll put, like if I'm putting it around, I'll make a hole for them to come up through.
Okay.
If I'm just trying to keep weeds down, I'll just put the layers and a little bit
And
of
then your
mulch to
mulch
keep
on
it
top.
down.
Okay, and that's a lot cheaper way of doing it. If you've got if you get newspapers
I
and
don't
stuff.
think the ink matters, so.
And it's probably better not to do magazines unless they're out of,
No,
because they're, I think,
too
we,
much ink and sweet.
well, and we found out too that those, in our recycling bins for our maintenance guys, they told us not to put that in the paper recycle.
Oh, okay.
That they don't recycle those. And I guess it's something to do with, probably it's probably got plastic maybe mixed in
Maybe
with
so,
it.
and all the extra ink and so
Mhm.
forth from the, yeah.
So
It doesn't
just stick
go
with
back.
regular newspaper paper, cause it'll work. And I guess if you, I don't know, paper towels too, if you've got.
Oh, yeah, that's expensive, but sure.
But if you've used them and it's only got food stains and stuff on it and you haven't used it for like, now I paint and craft.
Yes, yes.
If those
Mhm.
probably would not be good, cause they're gonna, any kind of crafting paint is technically plastic. Acrylic paint is, and,
Food might attract bugs.
yeah, oh, okay. But if it's
So-
just minor stuff that
After
you've
you
wiped
up
your.
spills or cleaned the floor.
Right, yeah, and if you wanna hang on to those and you let them dry out, you could use those too, cause I noticed, I recycle those a lot at home because we have pets. And so
Yes.
if we just wiped our mouths with it and that's it, I'm
Yes.
like, that's not that dirty, it can be used again, and so we stack ours up and reuse them for spills and animal accidents and different
Right.
things like that. It comes in handy. So, yeah, stuff like that. And you've done a lot of planting, so, what other bulbs have you ever planted?
Oh, I love the hyacinths. Of course, they pretty much passed now. And elephant ears, and they can be killed, unfortunately.
Ah.
But I love elephant ears. And I find the problem if they're in pots sitting out, then
Okay.
they come near freezing. If they're in the ground and with mulch, or if you put the pot down in the ground for the winter with a lot of mulch around it.
Oh, okay.
But it's the pot that sits up and gets so cold around it without good insulation.
Oh, yeah,
that's a
so you
problem.
need to take that into your garage or
Yes,
storage, if you have a
yes,
good
yes.
storage shed that doesn't get really
Yes,
cold.
exactly. And irises, though, I mean, they do pretty well. Yeah, they're pretty hardy.
Okay.
So,
In
and
Arkansas?
the daffodils, yes.
Oh, yeah, I love daffodils.
I mean, they'll make it through the snow. Now, ice if they break over, but they can be covered up with snow if they've started blooming, and then they
They're
pop back up
fine.
again.
They're always so pretty too. And I have some late, I think they're called something slightly different, but they look like daffodils, but they have multiple blooms on each
Oh,
stem.
yeah,
And I forgot the name of them, it's slightly different. But mine are just now coming up and they're gonna be blooming in the next week or two.
yeah. Okay.
And they're the late, really, really late ones,
Yes,
and they
smart.
do really well too. Whoever lived in our house before us had planted them, and I noticed and read one time that it's good to dig them up, not dig them up completely, but to separate
Oh,
them.
yes, to divide them.
To divide them up, and the one year that I did that, and I need to do it again, they grew like a foot
Yes.
taller than
Yes.
they did previously, and now they're short again, they only get maybe about that tall now.
Yeah.
But when I had separated them, and I even had some some that were bad,
Right.
that I had to get rid of that was in there too. And so can you do that with all bulbs, or?
Most of them, I know elephant ears you can, I'm not sure about
Because
gladiolus.
I was wondering, do
but elephant ears for
gladiolas,
sure.
do they multiply too like daffodils?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so that's all, and that's another reason why they probably want you to separate them and not
Yes.
plant them side by side, because they'll
Yes.
multiply. Okay, that's really neat, so,
Most bulbs will.
okay. And keep that in mind then, that you're probably going to have to separate, if you want them to look better and be pretty, you know, to take them out. And then, hey, you could give them to friends, if,
Yes.
as long as they haven't gotten moldy or
Right.
soft or whatever, because that's what mine were, they were soft. Then you could give, I think that's what I ended up doing, I gave some of mine away to my coworkers and stuff. And I think you're supposed to wait until the green foliage has died back completely
Yes.
before you do any. And maybe in the fall would be a better time to dig them up instead of the summer. Not only would you get hot, would it be a good idea? Because mine.
Most things are better when it's dormant, but before you cut off the green, let as much die down and go back into the bulb. It pulls the nutrients back into the bulb from the green tops,
part, yeah.
and then cut them off. And a lot of people in the yards, they'll just cut them off. Well, they can, but that's not good for them.
I know, my husband, I have
Daffodils.
to, that's another thing I have to get onto him for every year, because he doesn't like the dead stuff, or if it's
Oh, I
still
know,
green with no
I know.
blooms, he's like, oh, I wanna, no,
Yes.
don't do that,
Let it
please.
suck it back down.
Yeah, and he didn't, I explained it to him, I said, there is a reason, you
Yes.
know, you're supposed to, but I think it's because my daffodils come up so late.
Okay.
There's so many of them and so much greenery. He's
Yes.
like, that looks horrible, and he wants to clean it up, and I'm like, no, leave them
Right,
alone,
right.
please.
Be patient.
At least give them a good month, you know. I
Yes.
want, because that'll still be green through the
Yes.
May.
Yes.
I mean, the end of May, I think, is when they finally start dying a little bit.
Yeah.
And I have some daylilies in the same
Oh, yes.
area that come up in front of them.
Yes.
And they're coming up, they've been coming up a lot already
Started.
too. And I was like, oh boy, y'all are coming up kind of fast.
I know.
And the fun thing about the daylilies is that you can get to harvest the seeds from them. Did you-
Seeds?
Yeah, they
No
had-
bulb seed.
They're seeds, yeah, and I don't know, those were plants, so I don't know if daylilies are actual bulbs. Because I bought them in the store actually already grown, so I didn't look to see if they were bulb-like when I planted them. But I've got 2 daylilies coming up from seed in our planters out here that I
Okay.
planted last year. They were really, really tiny leaves and not much, they didn't do much last
Right.
year. And this year they've popped back up and they've got little small leaves
Yes.
about that long. And so I don't know if they're gonna actually do
Lots of times
anything.
it'll take them a year or two. They'll put the little leaf up, but they won't really do much for another year or so.
Okay. So, yeah, I found that they've got little pods.
Seed.
Yeah, when after they bloom, there's little pods, and if you break them
Yes,
open, there's
yes.
these little black seeds in there.
Oh.
And so, I don't know what color we're gonna end up with, because at home I have yellow, and then a peach color, and then a kind of a deep red kind of burgundy color
Yes.
one. And so I don't know which ones I got it from. I know I got it from different ones at different times, and my coworker Terry was like, yeah, bring them up here so we can do something with them. And I've got them, my seeds, a bunch of them in the hydroponic at our front desk right now.
Oh.
And they're not popping up yet, but one of them's got roots coming out of the
Okay,
bottom of the little
okay.
sponge. So I'm like, okay, it's doing something, and even though it's
Yes.
not popping up yet. So we're gonna see how that works. So we're gonna try
Well, I
to.
know with tiger lilies, the old-fashioned tiger lilies, when they have finished blooming, they'll have the little pods, little white balls, and they will make a little root, and those come off, and you can plant those. So, maybe it's kind of that way with daylilies.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah.
We didn't really research it. We just thought, hey, let's try this and see what happens there. I'm like, it looks like seeds, so let's see if we can
Yes.
do something with them. So, and if you don't have a hydroponic, you can always buy those little, what is it, are they peat moss? I'm trying to think, those little, they're the little
Yes.
circular looking things that you add
Yes.
water to them and they grow.
Yes.
I'm trying some in those too, I think. So, but it's funny how quick some of the stuff comes up in the
I know,
hydroponic.
with that light.
Mm-hmm. And there's some stuff that doesn't do well in those. It's just kind of funny. I've been trying to do strawberry seeds that I had bought from the store. And
Okay.
I'd read that those do well in hydroponics, but I have yet to get anything to come out. The seeds are not doing anything. They're not germinating.
I've never planted a strawberry seed. I've always gotten them from runners.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't had much success yet, so it may not be a good idea to do it that way. So I even bought some that said "so easy," and they were covered in this red looking something to help them grow or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
And that was the only seeds I could find for strawberries, so I just bought them. I was like, let me try and see. And I'm trying some of those in the peat moss little things
Okay.
and in the hydroponic, and nothing has sprung up from either one of them so far. So well, it may not work. But I did do some what was it? Some bell peppers, and
Oh.
along with some tomatoes, like cherry tomato ones. And my cherry tomatoes, they've came up the fastest. I mean, they've popped up, and I've got a good one. Well, actually, it's a couple of inches. It's almost 2 inches
From the
tall.
hydroponics.
Yeah,
I
and
saw those.
and at home, those are doing really well. And it took a lot longer for the bell peppers. I actually had to turn around and like soak the seeds a little bit longer on that one. But I
Okay.
finally, they're only like this tall, but they finally came up. It's funny how some of them seem to struggle, and it's a little bit harder for them to get going than other ones. So, but and then I also did some seeds from some morning glories on my daily walk with my dogs. Terry started teaching me how to actually harvest seeds from different things, and she's
Yes.
like, "Yes, you can get it from the morning glories."
Yes.
So
Oh, yes.
some were coming through a fence, several different areas of
Okay.
people's fences, and so I waited until they kind of dried up a little bit, and
Yes, that little pod.
I got the little seeds from them. And the purple morning glories, those have popped up really great, and they've been doing. And I actually put some outside out here that I'm
I
going to
wondered
grow.
if ours would come back this year.
I planted some new ones from
Okay.
seed even,
Okay.
and I was growing them from the little peat moss things too.
Okay.
And so it worked in hydroponic and the little peat moss, and they
Okay.
came up really fast, really quick. And I found some seeds to some white morning glories. They're a lot smaller little blooms, and I think Terry was looking it up, and they're more, I think they're, she saw that the home that she's in now that has a lot of flowers and plants, that she said she thinks those are more Florida type ones, maybe more do well there. And so I'd seen those growing in around my house too, or on my
Okay.
street. Those have yet to do anything either. I'm having trouble getting them to grow also from seed.
Sometimes the wild are more hardy. I don't know.
So I told her though, luckily with the white ones, not only were some coming through a privacy fence, but then there were some growing across the street where the city took care of it.
Yes.
So I think those got planted on their own by birds and other
Right,
things.
right.
So I told her, I said, if we don't have any luck with the seeds, then I'm sure I could dig up some
Right.
from over there, and the
Right.
city probably would not care
No.
too much, because they let that area grow really bad and get overgrown before
Yeah.
they cut it down anyway. So so I'm gonna try to get us some morning, the
Okay.
white ones, because they're a lot smaller. They're tiny little blooms, not the real big ones.
Yeah.
And they bloom only in the morning too.
Oh, okay.
Because
Okay.
I would notice
Yeah.
my morning walk, they would be blooming, and then
And
when
then
they're in the
they're dry.
evening, they would be closed. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, so these are morning glories too. So that's another fun thing y'all can do if you find some plants like that. You can get free seeds out of this kind of stuff, and try it out. Though you can get bugs out of them. I have found that, and my coworker Terry was like, yeah, that's a good idea to put them, I think she said in plastic bags to keep them from, I was leaving them open, and then I had these white little bugs or
Yeah.
worms coming out of some of my seeds. So,
If
so-
they're good and dried, seal them up like
Yeah.
the mangoes.
yeah.
Isn't the library downtown having a seed swap soon? Didn't I read about that?
They might, we do know that, another branch did one recently, and I
Okay,
think
maybe
it
that
was
was it.
McMath possibly, and I think they bought seeds to swap out to people and stuff. And I actually had a patron come in, I think it was this week, asking about seeds, and we were doing something for the kids, it was a grab and go
Oh,
for the
maybe that
kids.
was it.
And I was like, oh. And when she left, I talked to my coworkers. I'm like, well, if I'd known that we would have patrons wanting to come and get seeds, I would have done something. So,
Right.
since Terry's been saving seeds from everything we grew last year, and I asked her, I said, well, do you think I can borrow some of your seeds to give away? So we're going to try to do a few little bags of.
Good.
I'm trying to remember what she had left, and a lot of. I think. Gosh, I know there was a lot of zinnias.
Because I have a variety I've saved from last
Oh,
year
okay. Okay, yeah, if you wanna bring some, we were gonna just try to like say, hey, we'll have just a grab and go for the adults. If y'all wanna come by and pick up some seeds and try planting them at home.
And I probably have at least 3 rosemaries that are rooted, and they
Mhm.
don't like to stay in water forever. So I may have some rosemary if you want me to bring them in just a little glass jar and somebody can have them.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure how easy that would be to keep behind the desk though, if it's
Oh.
in water. Yeah, cause we
No, I just have to bring it
things,
the day off or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Those would be a little bit harder, cause people come and go so much, and that
True.
might be something that might get knocked over.
Okay.
We want easy stuff that won't be in the way, that we
Right.
won't have to worry too
Okay.
much about. But thank you for offering though. So if anyone's watching and they want
Right.
some, if you let us
Want some
know,
rosemary?
I can always contact Miss Moore here and see about getting you
Yes.
some. So we could always keep it in the back for you and let you come by and pick it up. You know, we'll be happy to
And
do
if they
that.
want a little pot of strawberries to plant, I'll bring them a little pot of strawberries.
Strawberries, all right. Yeah, she brought us a lot last year. We got strawberry plants. Well, they hitched a ride in some of the other
Yes,
stuff you were
yes.
giving us. So we ended up with quite a few of them, and
They
they.
have some tiger lilies come up out there this year.
Oh,
Well,
okay, that'll be fun to see. I planted some stuff last year. What was it? Oh goodness, they're coming up right now, and they did not come up at all last year. And it's a butterfly garden type one. Oh, it's got a tall bud on top of it, and what is it called? Oh my goodness.
It's not a bulb or like.
No, it's not a bulb, it was just seeds. And we planted them with our zinnias and everything else,
Oh, yeah.
and golly. Anyway, it did, I guess everything else took over and it didn't give
Right.
that a chance.
Right.
And so we thought we had weeds coming up, and Terry decided to just let it go to see
Right.
what it was. And she used her phone, has an app on her phone to find out what things are when they're growing.
Yes.
You have to pay for the app, but she's
Yes.
got a lot of good use out of it. And it told her coneflowers.
Oh,
It said it was
yes.
coneflowers,
Oh,
and we
wonderful.
knew we had planted them, but
Yeah.
none of them came up last year.
Some take a
But-
year.
And see,
Yeah.
they're like this tall now, a lot of them, and
Oh.
some are kind of purple on top right now, so we were like, oh, we gotta cover these up
Yes,
and make,
yes.
I think we had to put a garbage bag on top of it because it was so tall.
Okay.
So, and that's another thing, you can use garbage bags too.
Yes.
If you've got that.
Just take them off when the hot sun comes out, if you use
Yeah.
the black especially.
Ours is clear, but,
Yes, I
'cause
saw
of-
that.
but, yeah, so and I guess that's kinda, I'm trying to think, what time is it? Yeah, that's basically, I guess, everything I wanted to go over, but I wanted to talk to Miss Moore, cause she's really helped us a lot with our gardens and stuff, and she even got us some, I guess it's called edging, the metal
the
little
fence,
edging. Yeah, and that helps too, to keep things in a little bit, and we had to buy some more for an area that people like to walk over.
Yes. Yes.
And spent a pretty penny trying to do that little area in, but we're gonna put zinnias, and Terry's gonna bring some bamboo
Ooh.
rods to put in the
Okay.
ground, in the corners of it, because our zinnias got so big last year, they were leaning
Yes.
over into
Oh, I
the
can do that.
walkway. And so,
Can't put it in the house.
yeah, so she's gonna put, there was a lot left in her shed from the people who previously
Yes.
lived there, so she's
Yes.
gonna bring those up, and we're gonna either put string or whatever around those, we're gonna put them on all four
If you need more,
corners.
let me know.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes.
And just so, they were so beautiful last year, but we just don't want them to get in the way of people walking up the sidewalk and stuff, and so
I was afraid you were gonna say you're gonna plant some bamboo, and I
No,
said, wait,
no,
let's
those
discuss
are,
this.
yeah, bamboo is a, definitely an invasive plant,
Yes.
so, yeah,
If
I
you
guess
need a
it,
hedge, a thicket, but.
oh, God, yeah, I've seen people's yards that get completely taken
Yes,
over by that
yes.
before, and I'm like,
I
oh,
tried to
it's,
cut it out and put
it's,
it out for
it's
free.
a wonderful thing if, I would say if you were a business and you wanted to be able to sell it for making other things, it's great as far as being renewable and,
Yes.
because you cut it down and cut it down and it keeps growing and growing
Still
and growing.
makes great fishing poles. but-
Yes, and actually, I think the floss that I currently use is made out of bamboo
Yeah.
instead of silk, and so I'm trying to be more earth friendly with a lot of products that I buy, and so, I found some floss that is in a little glass container with a metal lid, and, you just buy the floss to refill it with, and so you're not buying a plastic
Yeah.
container every time, because I always got frustrated after I got done with my floss, I have to throw it in the trash, I'm like, that's so much plastic, and it's
Right.
not recyclable.
Right.
And that's one of those things I use a lot of, and so I'm slowly trying to replace things and
Right.
find things, but they have a lot of silk floss out there, and that's not good. Well, it's, the silk, what is it, the worm, the silkworm, they consider the practices of getting the silk from that is not, humane. And so, and it's not as renewable, and I guess it's a slower process too. So, to be more earth friendly, they recommend bamboo, and I'm like, well, heck, I know bamboo is something that there's a lot of, so I'm like, okay, that works for me. And I have to, cause, I have such close teeth and crowded teeth, I have to floss, otherwise it's horrible. But, yeah.
Well,
So,
maybe we're going back to cotton and
Mhm.
wool and, things
yeah,
like that.
yeah, so any of that. And cotton, I wonder, I've never grown that before, but
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
wondering,
Been there, picked it.
picked
pulled
it.
plucked it.
So I kind of would hesitate growing something like that unless you actually were gonna use it in some way, I knit and crochet, and I know you could spin it, but I've heard that spinning cotton is not as easy as spinning wool and other fibers. It takes a slightly different technique, I think, to spin it and stuff too, so I was like, oh, I might try that later. But I've tried spinning. The wool is not too bad, and it's hard enough to learn how to spin.
Yes,
Without, and, dyeing it is a different process, and I think easier than dyeing, cotton, cause I've heard dyeing cotton is kind of different. Because of the, what is it, the, protein-based wool type stuff, you can actually dye it with, natural dyes, and it'll take natural dyes and, also, there's the acid base, but then like Kool-Aid. You can actually dye it with Kool-Aid too, but.
Kool-Aid will dye anything.
Well, I heard that the cotton stuff, it doesn't do as well.
Okay.
I think it's not as vibrant and doesn't hold it as well or something,
Okay.
but, though it will stain the floors in here because we have the cork flooring.
Right.
So when we've done that dyeing class in here, we've done it outside
Okay.
to avoid having issues with,
Yes.
cause when you're trying to cover the floors in here, most things
Right.
is plastic and you don't wanna slip and fall on
Right.
plastic, and newspaper too is not, I guess unless you taped it to the
Right.
floor, that would be.
Outdoor is good.
So we've done that before too. Yeah, that's why when people use,
That, I didn't realize that.
yeah, it's cork.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, it just makes it difficult for anytime you do something that's messy in here, and
Yeah.
you take the chance of staining the floor. So, I guess I'm getting off topic, but easy to do that. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. I don't really think, there's really anything else to really cover. I think they had what was something that I thought was interesting? It mentioned the putting the mulch down at least 2 inches to protect it and stuff, but I thought something that was interesting, they said, in climates with little or no frost, for hardy bulbs, it's a good idea to dig them up every couple of years and store them in the refrigerator during the summer to stimulate cold temperatures, or simulate, I'm sorry. And I thought, well, that's interesting, and I'm wondering if that's the reason why the crocus that I bought one year, it came up for a couple of years, and after that, they didn't come back up again.
They've had warm winters.
Yeah, and Arkansas is, weird, so maybe that's what happened. I just thought that that was one of those that you just kind of had to replace every so many years. I thought it just didn't do well, because I've heard with some bulbs, they only do well so many years, and then you've got to replace them. And I have a hyacinth actually that isn't very pretty anymore when it comes up. It's very, I don't know, maybe it just needs some nutrients. Maybe I need to
That
get,
could be true.
because it looks just kind of starved almost in a way, and it doesn't smell good anymore. I'm wondering if if you just plant things and don't worry about them, then they, it's like, well, if you die, you die, whatever, A lot of times, I know in the beginning, whenever you're learning a lot about planting and growing things, that's kind of ends up being some people's ideas are like, well, I don't have time to do all of this stuff. But sometimes do you think that like a shake and feed would be okay, or more?
Oh, I think so. I mean,
I wasn't sure if the blood meal or the other one bone meal might
The
be a
bone
better.
I don't know, I've always read about bone meal for bulbs when you first plant them. But I'd say you're just gonna have to read the labels on the containers
To
and
see.
then with the bulbs that you got to be sure. you know what
Okay.
you need. But I think that, the shape, after they've come up and
Mhm.
they're alive, that's great, just around the edge a little bit from the bulb, should be fine. Because
Okay.
that's water soluble and it should be rain or water that dissolves it, so.
And they have
Don't put a
different.
bunch of cow manure around them, okay? That'll burn them up. Or ash.
Oh, okay.
Even if the ash is from leaves. I mean, you can do a little bitty bit and mix it in, but they're so tender when you do that.
I didn't know that about the cow manure. So if you're buying manure,
Then it's already mixed really well, or you need to mix a little bit in with your clay and your garden soil and so forth, because it will burn
your
the
plants.
little
Okay.
plants, yes.
I've
chemicals.
mixed it in before too, and
Yes.
I bought do you do half and half, or how would you?
Ooh, I'm not sure. I would do half and half though.
But more of the
Maybe, no, I do a lot more dirt and just a little bit of
the
potent
fertilizer.
chemical there.
Okay. Yeah. You see.
I mean, if the dog pees on your plant, what happens?
Yeah. It
Well, if a cow pees on it, same thing.
thing.
But
Oh, okay.
now this has been recycled through the cow, I realize, with good grass, and
Mhm.
depends on what they eat, but
Mhm.
corn and hay and whatever.
Because you always hear that's a good thing to have for your
It's
garden.
wonderful, but mix it lightly. It'll burn your tomatoes very quickly.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good to know.
Check with the home demonstration agent or the county extension office for a formula for mixing.
And that is actually, that's a good idea. Extension office is awesome when it comes to, and
Yes.
that's what they're there for. They do free classes.
Okay.
Janet Carson has come out here and done programs
She's
for us,
wonderful.
and it's free because that's what their job is to come and do programs and stuff to educate people. So
Now, when I was a little girl, they came out to the country and the home demonstration agent showed us how to can and freeze stuff, and freezers were new and preserve things, and it was
Oh.
wonderful.
So I guess they still do those probably programs. I haven't looked into them in a while since we've been closed down and not
I
doing
know.
stuff, but maybe I need to write that down and think about trying to get them to come out here next year. Because the canning thing would probably be something, I don't know.
Or like freezer jam or something from blackberries or strawberries or something, a season. But
Oh.
the freezer jam, because it's pretty easy to make, doesn't last a long time, but it's
Oh.
easy to do.
Okay. The other type of canning would be probably they could do something
I
like
don't
that.
know. I don't know.
Just
You
have
could
to-
ask, you could do a survey and ask. It'd be great if people knew how to do that, but it's a little more complicated. With new products for heating things and sterilizing jars, it'd be a lot easier these days, but.
Yeah. Oh, or even like my mom used to do. My dad always grew a garden every year. Do something on how to do pickles or something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would love
26
that.
different kinds of pickles. So
Right, right, and I think he just did regular cucumbers, and she would just do the vinegar and water and a little bit of dill
Right.
in there, and that's what, I never knew that's what they were putting in there. Later on, I learned that was dill, but I was like, what is the plant in there with the, you know, and she would, go to great lengths, and she would actually peel the cucumber, you know, and then chop it up and put it in there. But oh my gosh, I grew up loving that. I mean, and I think the more vinegary they were, the
Yes,
more I liked
yes,
them.
and the healthier.
Oh really? Yeah, vinegar's good for you. That's right.
Well, in the summer when I have cucumbers and maybe tomatoes and onions, I love to just chop them up and, like you said, and there's a mixture, and I'd have to think of a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, but vinegar and some water, and they'll keep for several days in the refrigerator. But it just makes a great little salad or even a condiment to serve with other things.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, you don't can anything. You sort of preserve it a little bit with the vinegar,
Mhm.
but it's just a tasty little thing.
Okay. Well, if anyone's watching this and
Oh,
is
dear.
interested,
God, we have people.
oh yeah, there.
Send in your recipes.
Or let us know if any of these things that we've been talking about, you would be interested in us doing an actual in-person program on it. We're always looking for suggestions because we want to do things that y'all are interested in, not necessarily something we like and we think you might like. You know, that's a lot of times that ends up being kind of what happens, because especially with no one coming into the library
Right,
currently,
right.
it's
So
hard
sad.
to gauge what people want. At least when we had people coming in, we could like have a box for suggestions and
Right,
stuff like
right.
that. And we could do that every once in a while to try to get ideas of what people wanted and stuff. So just let us know if any of the stuff we were talking about might be interesting to you. We may not do it this year. It might end up being next year because some of those we would want to have a better chance of having more people turn out. Especially if we were going to get someone from the extension office or something like that, we would like to make it worth their while. I mean, sure, if only one person shows up, that's fine, but we would prefer to try to reach as many people as possible, you know, and get, and advertising too. That's getting it out there to let people know that we're doing it. So, all right, so I hope y'all got something out of this. If you've got any questions, feel free to make a comment on this post of this video, or you can always message our Facebook page with questions. My boss usually monitors those, but she'll let me know if there's any questions about a program, and we'll be happy to try to get back with you or supply like a link to maybe the information that you are looking for, or if you want to make a suggestion about programs that you'd like to see. We would be happy to hear about that. That's what we're here for. We want to do things that you're interested in and want to hear about and do. We do kind of have this summer kind of plan because of summer reading already, but things starting in August, I'll definitely, I mean, if it's still kind of garden related, we could kind of sort of still do things at that time. So just let me know, and we'll see what we can do. Be happy to hear from y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and end it, since if I can figure out how to do it, since I'm doing it differently this time. Oh, there's an actual red big button on the screen that says end live video, so I guess that won't be as hard as I think. All right, so goodbye for this time, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. And in 2 weeks, we will be having a program on how to make your own laundry detergent tablets.
Oh.
So we'll have ingredients for that, and we'll do a demonstration here. We'll hand out stuff for you to take with you, but I'll show you how to do it here hands-on. And then if you want supplies to take with you, then sign up for our grab and go. Just call 501-457-5038 and tell them that you want to sign up for either our in-person program or just for the supplies, where you can just watch it virtually later and do it yourself. So just let us know. Bye-bye. All right. What did it do?
It's still on.
It is. Let's try it again.
Okay, that might
Okay.
work again.